business, but they couldn't get the licenses that you needed to collect the tax. I had connections, political connections that I had 18 licenses, but they couldn't get them. But they were workers, and they had a debt that they couldn't collect from somebody. They came to me, and I helped them out with that. And they had a branded, it was actually unbranded gas stations called Gas Stop, right? They had about 10 of them. So they knew the deal, but they didn't know how to implement it. So I said, we're gonna be partners. They said, okay. And they said, what's the cut? I said, very simple, 75% me, 25% you. There was 3 of them, right? And so one of them looked at me and says, Mr. Michael, we don't think that's fair. I said, no, it's very fair. And they said, why? I said, because you guys are gonna rob me a little bit. I said, and this way I won't be that mad because I'm getting the most. I said, but don't let me catch you, that's no good. And so he looked at me and he went and talked to his other 2 partners and he came back and he said, we have a deal, right? Shook my hand. But from that moment on, for 7 years that we worked together, they were the best partners I ever had. They were honest with me, they worked around the clock, we made a tremendous amount of money together, and ethically they were good. I mean, I have to say that. And it's unfortunate what happened to them after I went to jail, but I don't want to get into that. But anyway, they were good. And why do you say that?
Oh.
Are you Russian?
No.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no,
just curious.
They were good. Very, very smart. They didn't have an organization like we had, like Cosa Nostra had. The guy that was making the most money and just, had the best way about him, he was kind of their boss. And they were very clannish, a lot of family, with them. But they were great partners back then. Really, really liked my relationship with them.
When did you go in?
Who said that?
Me, I said that.
Oh,
I was
well,
just curious.
When did I do what?
When did you go to prison?
I went to prison first in '85. Yeah, I did 5 years, and then I was out for 13 months, and then they put me back in '91, and I got out in '95. Yeah. Yes.
Do you have any other examples of deals you've cut? Because I've never heard of anyone going to someone and saying, "You bring me this, I'll take 75, 25." It's a whole different way of thinking. So I'd love any more actual other deals you've done. I want to learn how to think like that.
Well, you don't want to learn how to think like that. Take it easy. You know what? It's all about, I wrote a book called I'll Make You an Offer You Can't Refuse, a business book. And I talk a lot about negotiation because in that life, when you reach a certain level, like I reached, and I was a captain, I had a big crew, negotiation was part of my daily work. Every day. Either I had a guy in trouble and I had to negotiate for sometimes his life, or it was a business deal. I was negotiating all the time. And I learned something. There's certain techniques with negotiation, Number one, you go into any negotiations. Now, let me turn this off.
You're good. Michael, you're good.
Good?
Yeah.
Any negotiation, you're going to be prepared. You got to go in being prepared. And there's so many ways I can tell you that. I mean, I sat down with John Gotti on a number of occasions. And you sit down with a guy like John, I'll give you an example of that, a story. And hopefully this is answering your question. There was a flea market, a swap meet in Brooklyn that I had a partnership in, right? And it was recent. The guy that started the market, he was an accountant, and he came to me and he said, Michael, I need your help. What's the problem? My partner, meaning his partner, was a drug addict, and he was bringing drugs into the market. And he said, we're going to get in a lot of trouble. So I found out who was the guy. I chased him out of the market. I said, you're not a partner anymore. Goodbye. You're gone, right? Well, he runs to John Gotti. And John gets in touch with me and said, Mike, I got to talk to you. So I go see him. And John wasn't the boss yet. He was a captain. We were both captains. And he said, this guy you chased, he's with me. I said, John, how's he with you? I said, he never mentioned your name until I chased him out of the market. And I said, and he's a drug addict. Now, we were not allowed to deal with drugs during my era. You dealt with drugs, you were in a lot of trouble. There was no drugs during my time in that life. And at least if you were doing it on a sneak and people didn't know about it, right? So I said, how can you have him with you? This kid's a drug addict. He can't be around you. Oh no, he cleaned up his act, whatever John said, right? So I said, well, John, he can't come back in the market. He said, no, he's coming in. So I said, we're gonna have to sit down and talk about this. So I go to my boss and I said, look, and I like John. We knew each other. We weren't good friends, but we knew each other. You see John in a nightclub. We used to go to, what was the place? Elaine's, I think it was, in the city. A lot of fun. Drank a lot of fun. But business, he was a nightmare. Because John was very narcissistic, and he could never see himself losing anything. So I sat with my boss. I said, look, there's no way we're going to be able to get along. So I said, I got to outsmart him in a way. Well, what do you mean? I said, I'm going to tell him I'm going to buy him out. He will never stand for me buying him out, right? He says he would want to buy me out. So I go in and I said, John, I'm buying you out. I said, that's it. I was here first. This was the guy that started it. You know, it's almost like that famous line, you don't buy me out, I buy you out. You know, I said, no, we can't do that. But in the back of my mind, that's what I wanted. So at the end of the day, he bought me out. I paid off the guy. He said, we're never going to be able to last and work this relationship. I gave him some money. I made some money. We were gone. John took the market. Within 3 months, it collapsed. You know, that was a deal. But what's my point? I knew going in the personality of the guy that I had to deal with. I knew what he wouldn't accept. I knew what I would accept. And I knew that if we couldn't get together, when John said, you're right, I would have walked away. We would have figured it out, give it up to the boss, let's work it out in some other way. You know, it's not so much that, you know, it's almost like you have to be able to say no and walk out of the room. But going into that negotiation, you got to know the lay of the land. It's very important. You can't just go in cold. You got to know what you'll accept, what you want, what you'll accept, and what you'll walk away from. And if you can, you know, negotiation, just think about it. It's not only business. You're negotiating with, you know how many times I negotiate with my wife during the day, with my kids, with the next door neighbor, whatever. Negotiation is a part of life. So how you deal with people, how you get around them, how you make them kind of like you in a way is very, very important. And it's worked for me. So always going in thinking, you know what? I'm not going to go nose to nose with this guy. I'm not going to show him I'm better than him. I'm not going to be the bully in the room. I'm going to try to work this out in such a way because I did my homework. I know the mentality. I know what's going on. Let me walk out of here the right way so that we both feel happy. You know, and I've learned something too, people, and I really mean this. On the street, you got to know this. The best way to defeat your enemies is how? Anybody know? Make them your friends. Without a doubt. I have a big YouTube channel, right? We got 1 million, I don't know, 300 something followers, but I have probably over 1 billion views with all of the platforms I've been on. When I first started this, there's a lot of guys on YouTube that will want to be mob guys and this and that. So one or two are made guys, and they were bad-mouthing me. I never met half of them. I didn't even know who they were. Bad-mouthing me, all of this, right? And I never responded to any of them because what do you win on social media? You know, they bait you into wanting to say something so the conversation continues, they get more views so that I didn't let them bait me. I never responded to anybody. They were saying things that were so ridiculous and out of the way. Well, one by one, I made every one of them my friends. Now they don't talk about me anymore. Are they my friends? No, we don't go out to dinner together. They think we're friends, but we're not really friends. But you get the point, right? They're not people that I really want to associate with. I'm done with that life and all of that. But that's a practice. There's no reason going around this life making people dislike you. There's no value in that, you know? So I have always tried to maintain relationships with people. You know, there's times when, you know, look, there's a line that you draw that you say, okay, that's enough, you know? But to the best of my ability, I've always tried to make friends. And I will tell you this, when I walked away from that life, my boss was very upset with me, but he was upset because he took it personal, because we had a great relationship. And when I walked away, it was like, how can you do this to me? You know, but there wasn't anybody on the street. If they didn't like me, it wasn't because of anything I did to them to make them dislike me. They didn't like me. Look, and I'm not saying this. This is a fact of life. You know, you're a young guy. You're doing well, people get jealous. It's just the way it is. You have to deal with it, you know? And it's not because you're anybody special. You're doing something well. It's life. People get resentful. You can't help it. Young people in business, the same way. You're going to deal with that throughout your life. So you can't help that. But you don't want to fester it. You don't want to throw it in their face. You don't want to show off. Because look, I learned something in life, people, and I think John said it. The most attractive quality in anybody that's successful is humility. When I see a successful person or any person that's really made it and they're humble, I'm so attracted to them. I said, this is what this guy really knows, or this woman really knows who they are, what they're really about. Because John said it, anything we have is really a gift from God. It can be taken away at any moment. I've seen more people here one day, gone the next. You know what really got me as a kid? I'll tell you this, the Shah of Iran. When I heard that he died, this was the wealthiest person in the entire world. He had everything at his fingertips. He couldn't save himself when that sickness came in. So really, who are we? At any minute in life, we could be gone. If you think you're such a big shot, forget it. I saw the most powerful people in the world. All the bosses of all our families, they all died in prison. On the street, they had the power of life and death over you. They go to jail, they're all dead. And you know what else got me and humbled me? I stood in front of 5 juries. You want to get nervous in life? Stand in front of a jury when you want to hear one word. One word. Not. Because if you don't hear not, those 12 people who you may not even have respected on the street, who was a dishwasher, who was a janitor, who was a school teacher, and you're a big tough mom boss. Well, those 12 people could put you away for the rest of your life. Who the hell are you? Think about it. I said, wow, these people can change the course of my life. Who am I? Think about it. And you can you can say that about anything. You can be in a plane, God forbid tomorrow it's gone. Anything could happen. You're healthy today, tomorrow you're sick. Who really are we? So when we get so full of ourselves that we think we're about something, that's when you're in trouble. I've seen the most powerful guys who just threw their weight around and they didn't last. None of them. So humility, and remember this, there's a real difference between confidence and arrogance. I love to see confidence in people. I hate seeing arrogance. I don't like it. It turns me off. I won't deal with somebody like that. If you're arrogant, don't bother me. I don't need you in my life. But confidence, that's attractive. This person is confident in himself. Gotta have that. And what I said about leadership, I had to take orders from people that I knew that I could run circles around. They weren't leaders. They were my boss. I had to obey them. I had to listen to them. But if I had the choice, if I had to follow them into a foxhole, I don't want to follow. I don't trust that person. That's not a leader. Because you have a management capacity, because you're a boss, you'll be a boss for a number of different reasons. Doesn't mean you're a leader. The only time you're a leader is when people willingly want to follow you. And I believe that, and I don't care what anybody else says, that's true. And what I said about John, the things that he can teach you that give you leadership qualities, well, that's valuable. And I'll be honest with you, I don't know John, but we spoke, as a matter of fact, he reminded me, we were on a boat driving around Manhattan Island, and we were speaking together. I forgot about that, actually. He reminded me. And then we had met at the Crystal Cathedral at one point, and we spoke. But he's a brilliant guy, obviously very, very successful, many, many successful books, and he's been teaching on leadership for a long time. So I mean, what he has to say is valuable. You listen to that, you soak it up. Sam, I know, reads like crazy. It's important to read. Soak up knowledge, get information. Knowledge really is power. But learn how to treat people. Learn how to make people like you. Learn how to make people want to be around you. Because like I said, people, when it comes down to anything, you are the product. You come into a room, listen to this. You come into a room, I'm attractive to you when you're trying to sell me something, right? You may come into the room, I like what you're selling, but I don't like you, so I'm going to try to steal your product from you. I don't want you involved, but I like what you got. So what way would you rather have it? I'd rather people say, hey, I want to be involved with this guy. There's value in this person or this woman. That's important. Make people like you to the best you can. It's important. That's a long answer, but anyway. Tony.
One more question. So, couple of things I just wanted to hit on. I think it's important that you point out, especially in today's political era and what's going on, the fact that the only reason that your dad was convicted of a crime was because he was involved with Marilyn Monroe at the same time John F. Kennedy was. And it was John F. Kennedy's mission to put your dad away through his brother, Robert F. Kennedy, who was the Attorney General. That's number one. Number two, I think it's important to hit on the fact, and this is, I think, very interesting, the fact that Rudy Giuliani, who indicted you so many times, recently wrote the foreword to your new book, A Mafia Democracy, which is unheard of. And then the last thing I want to say regarding transformation, and with today's retail prices and everything else, I think we need to consider going back in the gas business.
Oh, man, you know how, and let me tell you something, people, and I say this in church, all right? I have no moral issue at all with stealing tax money from the government. No moral issue at all. I would do it, I'd be happy, and I think I'm still going to heaven. Because remember, everything that's illegal, everything that's illegal is not always immoral. Not always immoral. Now, I'm going to point this out. Some people, Christians, the legalistic Christians, will say to you, "Come on, Michael, don't you remember that part in the Bible when Jesus was asked about money going back to Caesar, and Jesus takes the coin and says, 'Whose name is on this coin?' Render therefore to Caesar the things that are Caesar's, and to God the things that are God's." That means that if you steal taxes, that's a sin. I said, hold on. I said, you got to know the context in which Jesus said this, right? He said, well, explain. It's very simple. Jesus is there with his followers all around him. The Pharisees are trying to bury Jesus. They want him to be convicted. So they want him to say something against Rome. So they try to trap him with the coin. So what does Jesus say? He outsmarts them. Okay? Give it to Caesar, because he don't want his people to get in trouble. Jesus be a tax evader going against Rome, get himself in trouble. But do you think Jesus, I said to the guy, do you think Jesus really believed that the Romans were right in overtaxing his people? Of course he didn't believe that. I said, but he was too smart to fall into that trap. So you could take it for what, my feeling is that Jesus said, if you're stealing taxes, just don't let the Romans know about it. That's it.
Sounds like Jesus.
You got to figure. And think about it. I think I got the right interpretation of that. But anyway, but I would have no problem with it. I'm going to be honest with you. And I'm a Christian. I love the Lord more than anything, and I think I'll go to heaven. And you say, well, never mind what he might say. But anyway, so this whole thing with Marilyn Monroe, it's a story. My dad was such a high-profile figure. He had government was all over him, right? Got indicted a number of times. I had a few more indictments than him, but he had a lot in his time. So after my mom passed away, I went to see him, and I said, Dad, let me ask you that. I never asked you this before, but I got to ask you this now. He said, what? I said, why you? Why did they come down on you so hard? Carlo Gambino was around then, Joe Colombo. Why did they come down on you? He said, well, son, I never wanted to tell you this when your mother was alive, but, she passed now, so I can tell you. I said, what? He said, the Store Club in Manhattan was owned, what's his name? Costello had a piece of this. He was another mob boss. He said, and one night we're in there, and Marilyn Monroe came into the club. And so Costello, Frank says, do you want to meet Marilyn? My dad says, yeah. So he goes over, he meets Marilyn, right? And allegedly they had a little of an affair, And so my dad broke it off when he met my mom. And one day, as you know, that Marilyn Monroe was having a relationship with both John Kennedy and Robert Kennedy, the both of them. So what happened was, back at that time, I don't know if you know this, but J. Edgar Hoover, head of the FBI, would never even acknowledge that the Mafia existed. And the reason for that, because we had dirt on him. He was gay at the time, and that was unheard of back then. And we had that on him, so he would never even admit that the Mafia existed. The only time he did it is when Appalachia happened, and it had to happen because all the mob guys were caught at that time. But prior to that, it would never even admit it. But Robert Kennedy, on the other hand, he was the Attorney General. And ladies, please forgive me for this, I'm just being honest, but my dad told me, he said, Marilyn and Robert happened to be in a hotel room, or they were having a relationship, and after it was over, or during the time, Marilyn happened to call out my name. He said Sonny instead of Robert, right? My dad's name was Sonny. And Robert Kennedy got on the phone with J. Edgar Hoover and said, who's this Sonny Franzese? Put him away forever, right? And you know what? I said, Dad, you've exaggerated a few things, in telling me, but I said, there is a ring of truth to this. I almost believe it. No, it's God's honest truth, Mike, it's the truth. So anyway, it seems like there could have been some truth in that because, again, Hoover never went after my dad. It was Robert Kennedy that really went after him. So maybe there's some truth in it. What was the third question? I got to tell you this, people. I'm ending with this. I don't want to get political, but I have to in a way. I just went on Rumble in the past couple of months because YouTube, you got to be careful politically. They want to shut you down. Rumble, you can say whatever you want. And I will tell you this on a serious note. This isn't about politics. This is about issues that are affecting our life. Politics I'm not interested in. They're all crooked. I understand all of that. It's just the game, the way it goes. I understand that. But I will tell you this country's in real trouble. There's no question. The things that are happening here, it's immoral. There's a lot of bad stuff going on. And I will tell you this. If this woman becomes president, this country is going to go downhill even further. I don't know if we can stand another 4 years of Democratic rule the way it's going now. And I really mean this. And people, oh, Michael, you love Trump. I don't love Trump. I love my wife. I love God. I love my children. I love people that I love. I don't love Donald Trump. But he was a good president for 4 years. The world was safe. The country was in good shape. And if it wasn't him, we just can't have the other people that are going there now. We can't have them again. I'm telling you right now. Because I'm very into this, because I love my country. I have 7 children. I have 7 grandchildren. I'm worried about their future. I'm 73 years old. What are they going to do to me? I don't care who's president. I'm going to be okay. That's just the way it is. But I'm worried about my kids and my grandchildren. Why do I say this? We can't just be quiet. The sin of omission, doing nothing, is just as serious as the sin of commission, and sometimes even more serious. Because if you have a platform, if you have influence, and you can influence people the right way, and you fail to do that, and bad things happen, well, you're just as much a sinner as the person that could be committing something wrong. So I am convinced of that, and I'm speaking my mind, not because I love Donald Trump, because the other alternative is very bad. It's very bad. And I only pray that we get out there and spread the word, and that's what I say on my podcast. I said, listen, you got to get out there. You have an obligation to tell people the truth. On the street, I've never seen some of the horrible things happening that are happening now today. When I was saying this to a gentleman before, when somebody elects you, puts their faith in you, votes for you, because they expect you to care about their welfare, the welfare of the country, the welfare of their children, and you violate that trust, that's horrible. Think about it. Think about the damage you're causing people. And this is what's happening. These politicians, people say to me, oh, Michael, politicians always lie. It's just politics. I said, no, it's not. It's not politics. It's lying. Don't give lying another name. It's lying. And when they lie about things that are so detrimental to you, that now becomes dangerous. And there's things that we have to stop. How do we stop it? I'm not suggesting anything but going to the voting booths and voting for the right person. That's it. People say to me, Donald Trump, he's a narcissist. Okay, so what? Was he a good president? Well, he's a liar. Okay, tell me what he lied about while he was president that affected your life in a bad way. Well, no, tell me. Don't say, well, tell me. You want me to tell you how Biden lied? Okay, sit down. You got a couple hours? I'll tell you. Yeah, I want to tell you, I want to leave you with this. And if you got one more question, we'll do. But I want to leave you with this. I had 3 racketeering indictments. 3. I know the statute inside out and upside down. I had to defend it. I went to jail for one of them. Took a plea. The information that the GOP has uncovered about Hunter Biden and Joe Biden, there is more information there than there was in any one of my cases. And what do I mean by that? When I had my gas company, I had 18 shell companies. What's a shell company? It's just a company, it's a corporation, you form and you open up a bank account. There's no brick and mortar, you're not selling any service, there's no products, you don't have any employees. All it did was collect the illegal tax money that I was defrauding the government at. That was it. Nothing else. Those were shell companies. When the government caught up with one, I would collapse it and go on to another one, right? Biden and Hunter had 21 shell companies. They had 3 more than I did, right? That's number 1. No brick and mortar, no employees, no service, nothing. Not even a piece of paper to back it up, nothing. They had suspicious bank records. Why? Where was that money coming from? What was the purpose of that money? Nobody's ever explained it. Never. The laptop. Remember? Russian disinformation. That's what it was. You know, it was a lie. 51 CIA agents actually lied about it. Russian disinformation. Biden, lie. Well, now, that was the major piece of evidence against the same Justice Department that said it was a lie. Now they used it against Hunter to convict him. Because it was already verified by the FBI. It was real. The text messages, the whistleblowers, you know, everything that was on, the information that was on that laptop. There is more information to indict Joe Biden for racketeering and Hunter and his brother than there was in any one of my cases. It's 100% a racketeering indictment. I would stake my life on it because I know the statute. Whether he's innocent or guilty, everybody deserves their day in court. I'm not saying that. Okay? Prove it, disprove it, whatever. An absolute indictment. That's number 1. Number 2, the guy is treasonous. He was peddling his office to China, to Ukraine, getting money in. That's treason. He was selling out our country. I'm personally offended by that, and I was a criminal. I wouldn't sell out my country. I might steal money from the government. I'm not selling out my country, okay? Understand that. That's offensive to me. And then you stand up there like you're holier than thou, and you're talking about this guy being a bad guy, being bad. Let me tell you, people, there's 2 things that you have to worry about in America. Well, actually 3. Number 1, when the party in power starts weaponizing the Department of Justice and the federal agencies to go after their political enemies, trouble. They've done that with Trump. The cases are garbage. I tell you that. And I don't know Donald Trump. He's not a friend of mine. I don't know him anything. He doesn't owe me anything. I don't know him. The cases are garbage. Absolute garbage. The way they went after this guy, it's pitiful because they can go after any one of us the same way, number 1. Number 2, there are attempts to shut us down on social media so that we can't voice our opinions. Terrible. And number 3, horrible that the press is running cover for those people in power. What is that? That's socialism, that's communism. You do that in Russia, you speak out against the government, you go to jail, you get killed. When they start trying to quiet us down and they don't want to tell us the truth, we're in a lot of trouble. So these are the things that we have to be aware of and we have to fight against. When I say fight, I'm not talking about violently, hopefully, you know, at the voting booths. Because I'll tell you something, the biggest job right now, the most important job in this country right now is Lara Trump, who's trying to make sure that this is an honest vote. And whoever wins honestly, wins honestly. But it's got to be an honest vote because I believe, I'm not a conspiracy theorist at all, but I know the Democrats are so underhanded and they're smarter than the Republicans. There's no question about it. They stick together and they want to win at all costs. My last book was called Mafia Democracy because I see they're acting exactly the way we acted on the street. Money and power. I'm finished with this. I know I'm going over, but it's okay. Nancy Pelosi. She's Italian, I'm supposed to like her, right? I cannot like her at all. I don't care if she's, I don't care if she's my sister, I wouldn't like her. You know what? The woman goes in there making $150,000 a year, she's worth almost $600 million. Insider trading. Any one of you do that, you're going to jail. Going to jail. Who the heck are these people that come in there and become rich on our backs? We got to get rid of them. We got to stand up and get rid of them, or our children and our grandchildren are going to have a very tough time in this country. And you're younger, so you're young people here. You're going to have a rough time. The freedoms that you enjoyed, they're not going to be there anymore. Trust me on this. Something is going down, and it's going down bad. And I'll tell you something. When you chase God out of the classroom, and you want to put pornographic material in there for 5, 6, 7, 8 years old, let me tell you something. If I had kids and I saw that, I'm going back to jail. There's no question about it. All of these things, people, I can go on and on and on and on and on. I just want you all to take a stand for what's right. And on November 5th, you got to go, and it isn't about liking a kid. It's who's going to do the best job for your country and for your children and your grandchildren. That's it.
Amen.